You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
It knows no bounds. I mean, all genders, all races, all ages, all obviously status and success stories, etc. It crosses. Everybody can be at risk.
Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, just some of the celebrities who recently chose to take their own lives, where those here on the Suncoast can find help. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Matter, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. Alan Cohn has the night off. We'll have more on the rising rates of suicide in a moment, but first, our top stories at 7. We begin tonight with the rocky relationship between the Sarasota County School District Superintendent and County Sheriff, which may be preventing solutions to school security. After a sit-down meeting with law enforcement on June 12th, Superintendent Todd Bowden says he called every law enforcement agency and set up meetings to negotiate contracts to provide school resource officers if needed for the start of school. The district will pay $65,000 of the $105,000 cost for officers in the city of Venice, putting 2 in the high school and 1 in the elementary school. The catch, those officers will stay there even when the district's police department is up and running. Bowden says citizens in Sarasota County should feel safe knowing there will be an SRO on campuses on the first day of school.
To our parents in our district, I think they can rest assured that there is going to be an officer at every school in Sarasota County on the first day, August 13th. At some point during the year, that officer may change, but there will be an officer on that campus August 13th.
Bowden says he has a meeting with Sarasota Police Chief DePino tomorrow to talk about a plan, and he's also meeting with Northport PD next week, but he says Sheriff Tom Knight has not called him back. One Manatee County Commissioner is proposing a merger between 3 different fire departments. West Manatee Fire Commissioner George Harris says West Manatee, Cedar Hammock, and Southern Manatee Fire Departments could merge together in the future. He says that's because their fire department is selling its administration building and downsizing, along with their chief not seeking renewal on his contract. He thinks a merger with other departments would be beneficial. He says the merger would also help deliver better service to emergency calls and closeness response.
If it's not beneficial, i.e. economical, for the 3 departments to do that, then it doesn't make any sense to do it.
Harris says he would need the go-ahead from 14 other commissioners before a feasibility study would be conducted. Florida Senator Bill Nelson was denied entry today into the Homestead Temporary Shelter for Unaccompanied Children. Nelson said they needed to apply 2 weeks in advance in order to visit that facility. It was reopened by the Trump administration earlier this year.
This is not a good reflection on the Trump administration, that it is just perpetuating this policy of ripping children apart, and they don't want to be held accountable. They know they have done wrong. They're starting to get this reminded every moment, and yet they are now embarrassed and don't want us to check on the comfort and welfare of these children.
Now, it's unclear if this facility is housing children who crossed the border on their own or if they were children who were separated from their families after entering into the U.S. illegally, or perhaps a mix of both. Billionaire Jeff Green released his first ads in the Florida Democratic primary for governor, describing his humble beginnings and showing a confrontation with President Donald Trump. Green is spending $2.9 million on television and online ads that were released today. One ad shows Green speaking on TV against Trump. It then shows a verbal argument between the two. Well, let's check in with ABC7's Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob, I know you've been tracking some showers in our area recently.
Yeah, one thunderstorm in particular located over North Sarasota County now, heading toward Longboat Key. It's over Longboat Key right now, but not much else going on. And that's a result of some very dry air that's moved in at around 30 to 40,000 feet. Which really limits the coverage, but we do have occasionally 1 or 2 storms that make it up through that dry air and actually can sit around for a little while. This is drifting to the west now. It is producing some heavy rainfall right there into central portions and southern portions of Longboat Key, stretching down close to Aledo, but not quite there. It has moved out of Bayshore Gardens and also North Sarasota. You can see that heavy rainfall now again near Harborside Drive, stretching down toward Longbow Club Road. It's going to end here in the next 15-20 minutes as it continues to move off to the west. We had seen some lightning with this. It went above 30,000 feet as far as the vertical extent of the storm, but now it's gone below that, so I don't expect to see any more lightning with this particular cell until it maybe gets out into the Gulf of Mexico and may actually regenerate, as it will be over some very warm water. Now, in rainfall, you can see quite a bit there in Kensington Park, North Sarasota, near the airport, at about a ½ inch of rain. Elsewhere across the state, some bigger storms over the northern portion, but with that dry air hanging around, we're not seeing much rainfall, and it looks like for the most part similar conditions expected and anticipated tomorrow as the dry air sticks around. Now, as far as the latest goes, we aren't anticipating much more rain. It's still light rain at the airport, but 80 degrees right now, the heat index at 85, the pressure 29.95.
Welcome back. Americans are taking their own lives at alarming rates. ABC7's Jess Dowdrick joins us now to explain what researchers are saying about those suicide rates.
Suicide rates have increased by 25% in the U.S. over the last 2 decades, according to the CDC. And more than half of those who committed suicide had not been diagnosed with a mental health condition. When it's a household name like Anthony Bourdain or Kate Spade, it shocks us to the core. From afar, it seemed like they had it all: fame, money, admiration. But in reality, it doesn't matter if you're famous or not. Many people are living lives of quiet desperation.
I've lost personally, I've lost several friends. My friends have lost friends. There's not a day that goes by on my Facebook page where I see another one took his or her life.
Stephen Garcia spent 5 years in the Marine Corps and served 1 tour in Iraq. He says he never had those thoughts of taking his own life, but has lost so many loved ones to suicide.
Veterans, a lot of the time, don't know who to go to or don't know where to turn.
Because of that, Garcia has become a veteran advocate, trying to help veterans settle back into day-to-day activity after serving overseas.
They don't know how to adapt. They don't know how to cope because you're so used to being independent, mentally strong and needed and wanted, and then when you get out, it's like all that sweat from under you.
Florida's suicide rate is higher than the national average, according to the CDC, up 24% in the last 10 years alone. It's one of the leading causes of death in the state. Erica Barker, Director of Administration for Coastal Behavioral Health Care, may know why.
Access to mental health treatment it's probably one of the worst here in the state of Florida, if not the worst. So access to mental health treatment is an issue.
The other issue is the stigma that surrounds suicide. People will struggle with their depression and anxiety alone because they're embarrassed or afraid to tell anyone.
So for example, somebody says, I have cancer, and they will have no problem telling their employer, I'm gonna go see an oncologist. However, when they're depressed and feeling really, really sad and can't get out of bed, will they tell their employer, I'm going to go see a psychiatrist?
At Sarasota Memorial Hospital's Bayside Center for Behavioral Health, Executive Director Terry Cassidy has experienced the uptick in suicides in the last 2 decades.
Not sure why. There's a lot of anecdotal reasons. The research really hasn't been very concrete about what that is. There's been speculations that more stress, more people separated from family, more isolation.
She says it may just be that there's more research done on the issue now.
When someone kills themselves or commits suicide, they're not going to put that in the obituary. There's so much shame and stigma attached to it. So I feel like maybe there's more reporting happening in the last, 10 or 20 years.
According to a study done by the CDC, the most common method of suicide was by gun.
There's a high prevalence around that. I believe it's over 75% of the completed suicide with white men were a result of a gunshot wound. With women, it's more often medication, asphyxiation.
Veteran Stephen Garcia doesn't think weapons have anything to do with the growing suicide rate.
It's a mental issue. It doesn't matter if it's a gun or pills or whatnot, jumping off a bridge. It's just an unfortunate situation that I wish I could go out and just hold their hand and say, hey man, come with me.
But what professionals say it all comes down to is mental illness.
20 to 25% of the population has a mental illness, but we won't talk about it.
If you think someone you love is thinking about suicide,
And if you're really concerned that somebody's in emotional distress, saying, are you thinking about killing yourself? A lot of people feel very uncomfortable with that concept. They think, okay, I'm planting the seed, I'm giving them the idea, I'm giving them permission, when actually research demonstrates you're reducing the risk by coming across in a non-judgmental manner and letting them know you're a person they can talk to.
and if you yourself are having suicidal thoughts,
You do not have to do this alone. You shouldn't have to do this alone. And you should seek the proper treatment for that, just like anyone else who has a disease.
if you're feeling extreme distress, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. That number is on the bottom of your screen. We also have a list of local resources on our website, mysuncoast.com. Jess Dowdrick, ABC7, your Suncoast News.
All right, Jess, thank you. Well, it's almost certain that every single one of you out there watching know someone who made the decision to take their own lives. Unfortunately, it is happening more now than ever. On June 5th, fashion designer Kate Spade was found dead in her Manhattan apartment by an apparent suicide. Just 3 days later, celebrity chef and television personality Anthony Bourdain was found dead in an apartment in France, also from an apparent suicide. The World Health Organization estimates 1 million people die from suicide each year. Now, this equates to one death every 40 seconds. It's predicted by the year 2020, the rate of death by suicide will increase to 1 every 20 seconds. So why the increase, and how can we prevent this from happening? Joining us with more are Brian Jacobs, a Marine Corps veteran and founder of Vets to Success, Terry Cassidy, the Executive Director for Bayside Center for Behavioral Health, and Dr. Eddie Renier, a clinical psychologist here in Sarasota. Our conversation on the increase of suicide right after we get a check on our first alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Yeah, a lot of the talk right now, Jacqueline, has been the heat. The heat is on. Early start summer, not officially beginning until 6:07 Thursday morning. But it's already here, as you know. The jet stream, which typically does this time of year, starts to track northward so we don't get any more cold fronts. And this is the start of the heat. And boy, it's been extremely hot here. And that hot weather has been around the southern plains states, even to the Midwest over the past week. Last week it was 97 in Kansas City. That heat now spreading our way. High pressure building at the surface and the upper levels of the atmosphere. It's called a heating up of the atmosphere. As that air sinks, it actually compresses and heats up and keeps things pretty warm. Slow down if you're going to be outdoors. Obviously, you don't want to exert too much energy, especially during the mid part of the day. Dress for summer, too. That's light colored, loose fitting clothing to allow your body to breathe. And watch what you eat. Obviously, you don't want a big dinner or big lunch when you're going to be out there. And drink plenty of water. I know people sometimes get into the beer, but the beer is no good. It doesn't help you out. It doesn't cool you off. Neither does iced tea. It has, again, it looks like caffeine in it, and caffeine is actually a diuretic, which causes you to lose water. And stay out of the direct sun. Direct sun obviously can draw more energy away from your body, and air-conditioned places obviously the best place to be. Nice cool air conditioning, just like the studio, which is about 64 degrees. Casey Key webcam showing pretty calm conditions out there in the waters, and that's a result of that high-pressure ridge, which continues to keep no problems for boaters out there. Beachgoers, a little problem still with some red tide. It's patchy up and down the area beaches, but we've had only 1 or 2 lone storms, and it sensitized the radar to show you this is the sea breeze. It's made it all the way inland to east portions of Manatee and Sarasota counties, but it's not really generating much storminess because of the fact it's so dry in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. 1 lone storm broke out and produced a few lightning strikes, and then has now moved into Longboat Key and is expected to wind down here in the next 20 minutes or so as it continues to head off to the south and southwest at around 5 miles an hour. But all the rain that was around the airport and also near DeSoto Lakes is all gone now, and looks like that'll be pretty much a standard through this evening. There's a chance we could see some showers popping up out here in the Gulf of Mexico late tonight and tomorrow morning as a result of the land breeze developing, which is a phenomenon that occurs overnight and into the early morning hours. You can see the general flow, though, around that area of high pressure off the Carolina coast is from the east to the west, with the cloud tops being blown off toward the west. Temperatures where it's rained, it's cool, but not in Tallahassee. It's 94 there. It's down to 78, though, in Jacksonville. It's cooled to 80 at the Sarasota-Bradian Airport as a result of the rainfall that moved on through. But downtown Sarasota is still 88. The Gulf water temperature, 87. And that's the same temperature now in Arcadia. Currently still getting some light rain at the airport, but for the most part it's over. Winds out of the west-northwest at 9. and that dew point temperature remains high. The high today was above average at 92 degrees, not close to the record though of 98. And tomorrow's forecast does call for a chance for a few morning showers along the coast, just a few scattered about. Otherwise, look for 1 or 2 lone showers like we saw today in the afternoon and evening, due to the fact that this dry air is still hanging on into the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. It's not dry at the surface. You notice that with the high humidity around. Winds will be light tomorrow for boaters. Smooth conditions out there for the bays and inland waters. The 7-day forecast shapes up like this. 30% chance for scattered showers, generally sunny skies, hot weather continuing on the first day of summer. And Friday, same story there all the way through the weekend. I think with a west wind, though, developing, we'll expect more inland storms over the weekend. Jacqueline will be back with her guests right after this. Stick around.
It fell off the roof of my car.
It fell out of my backpack.
Oh, it fell off my grocery cart.
I tossed it to a really clumsy friend.
I tripped while jogging.
My 2-year-old had a temper tantrum.
It bounced down 2 flights of stairs.
No matter how you broke your smartphone, there's only one smart way to fix it. Batteries plus bulbs.
I dropped it on the floor, and he stepped on it.
Schedule your repair at batteriesplus.com.
If you're looking for the perfect trip that allows you to spend quality time with the family, then discover the great outdoors on an Alabama Black Belt adventure. Create unforgettable memories while hunting, fishing, or biking and hiking. Or play the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, now celebrating 25 years. And while you're here, enjoy the flavors of the Black Belt. Book your adventure at our lodges or stay in the Renaissance Montgomery Hotel and Spa. Start planning an Alabama Black Belt adventure today.
Chris Domine is a husband, father, an athlete, even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris's kidneys were failing.
The doctor said if you don't do dialysis, if you don't get a kidney transplant, you are going to die.
Then Chris received a second chance, made possible by an organ donor.
Your well-being changes from loss of hope to better times ahead.
Imagine what you could make possible. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov.
The thought of my sons growing up without me inspired me to quit smoking.
I talked to my doctors, and then I threw away all my cigarettes, ashtrays, and lighters.
I started exercising instead of smoking.
Letting my friends online know I was quitting kept me on track.
Staying away from alcohol when I was first quitting was key.
I kept on trying, learned something each time.
Do whatever it takes.
No matter how many times it takes.
We did it. You can too.
For free help, visit cdc.gov/tips.
When my youngest, Addie, was 2.5, she was diagnosed with leukemia. When we first heard that diagnosis, you feel extremely alone. Walking in that Light the Night light with 6,000 people carrying lights, white for survivors, red for supporters, gold in memory of those who have passed. It's the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's hope that every year there are fewer gold lanterns. Your lantern will make a difference.
Start a team, join a team.
Help us light the night.
Welcome back. We're talking about the increasing rate of suicide. Joining us with more is Brian Jacobs, a Marine Corps veteran and founder of Vets to Success, Terry Cassidy, the Executive Director for Bayside Center for Behavioral Health, and Dr. Eddie Renier, a clinical psychologist in Sarasota. Thank you all for coming out and joining us this evening. Now, when it comes to suicide, there's always more questions than there are answers as to why anybody would want to no longer feel like they want to live. But in a culture that seems to idolize celebrities and a totem pole of people that seem to put fortune and fame on the top of that, it seems that we talk about this a little bit more when there's celebrities involved. Terry, can you talk to me a little bit about this being an issue that does not discriminate at mental illness, suicide awareness? It doesn't discriminate regardless where you stand on that totem pole.
Right. It crosses all socioeconomic, race, religions, just across the board on all that. There is no discrimination. You know, one 1 in 10 men suffer depression and 1 in 5 women suffer depression, and depression's a leading contributor for suicide, one of the leading contributors.
Okay, and Dr. Renier, it was reported, you know, Kate Spade, her sister, said that Kate was obsessed with the suicide of Robin Williams, and the details of Robin Williams' suicide were unveiled. Do you think that those specific details from suicide should be released to the public because perhaps of maybe copycats who might idolize that idea of suicidal thoughts and the way that those actions were taken?
Sure. Whenever celebrities commit suicide, the risk of copycats increases. But let's be clear. Depression is the cause of suicide, and anyone who commits suicide is usually depressed or using a substance, alcohol or some drug. And a person who feels cut off from family, who's alone, who's suffering a lonely pain. Depression is a dark cloud that comes across people and gives them no hope. And when you're in that moment, you just want to escape, and death is an escape.
Certainly. Well, another example would be perhaps not suicide related is when Carrie Fisher's family begged her, begged for the drugs in her system not to be released to the public. We see drug overdoses also an option when it comes to suicide. Do you think there's a similarity between the suicide and drug overdoses when it comes to privacy?
Yeah, I think that is. I think there's some things that should be held private, and that's private. We can talk about someone's suicide, we can mourn that person. We don't have to release sensitive information, medical history, that kind of thing. We should respect the living and the dead. The way to deal with depression and suicide is to treat it. People who get treatment don't commit suicide. It's people who don't get treatment, people who are cut off who do. And so we should be talking about how people get help rather than glamorizing their death.
Certainly. And for you, Brian, coming from a military standpoint, you've seen this, we know some of the statistics when it comes to military. Talk to me a little bit about what's happening with the troops when it comes to suicide.
Well, I've started to find out that it's a sense of identity. It's a sense of knowing who you once were and then getting out of the military and not knowing who that person is at all. And trying to reintegrate back to a world that you don't understand and you don't fit into. And then when you do try to reacclimate and you fail, you start to feel a piece of, why am I here? Where do I belong? And am I really feeling a purposeful life where I've come from nothing but serving purpose? And so, veterans are looking to serve again. And that's where I think the shortcomings are. They're not finding purposeful work.
All right. Well, we are just getting warmed up. Our conversation on increasing rates of suicide will continue after the break.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $15 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand with no surprises and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service 4 times in a row. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. So stop paying for more than you need and start your 30-day risk-free trial today. Call 800-457-2317, go online, or visit a Target store today.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system can make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer free for 30 days. Just call 800-604-0398.
My health has improved. It's simple to use, and I'm not worried about infections.
SoClean works on all CPAP machines and popular masks, destroying CPAP bacteria, viruses, and germs without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and in just minutes, voila! Sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited time offer. Call now, 800-604-0398. or visit SoClean.com today.
It's summer on the Suncoast, and you know what that means. It's Friday Fest season.
And you are invited. Join ABC7 for the Van Wezel Performing Arts Hall's free outdoor summertime concert series.
Jam to dance music by Ja Movement on June 22nd. The Movement is sure to get you dancing.
With food trucks, beverage vendors, and more, it's the perfect spot to enjoy great music and a summer sunset over the bay.
For more information, go to this number or go to mysuncoast.com/FridayFest.
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration.
Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Help put treatment within reach of veterans in crisis.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs.
The ABC7 First Alert weather app just got even better. It's easy to use once you download it. First, tell the app to follow you, so you get alerts pinpointed to exactly where you are. Then customize your settings with all the places you go, from the beach to grandmother's house. Get accurate alerts for everyone you care about. You can even pick which weather alerts and categories you want and what they sound like. More ways to customize and more ways to keep your family safe. Download the ABC7 First Alert weather app today.
You're watching ABC7 News at 7:30.
Welcome back. We're talking about the rise of suicide, what you can do to look for warning signs, and where you can find help here on the Suncoast. Now, Terry, I wanted to ask you some of those signs of suicide. What can we look out for when it comes to that?
Sure. People researching, talking about wanting to commit suicide, isolating, withdrawing, changes in eating, changing in drinking, being more abusive with alcohol and drugs, giving away their belongings, putting their fears in order, just an overwhelming sense of hopelessness. And then another big factor is feeling, and this is a big one, feeling like they're a burden to other people or to society in general.
Okay, and we saw in Just Dowderick's report employers saying, you know, when you have an employer, if you have cancer, like the lady who we spoke with said, you go to an oncologist and you tell your employer that that's what you need to do. But when you have a mental health issue, it's much harder to address that issue. Dr. Renier, what would you recommend to people when it comes to talking to their employer about a perhaps mental illness that they believe they have?
Mental illness, like any illness, is an illness. And so an employer has to listen to it. Just like cancer, just like any other disease, it's not treated any differently. I think the fear is the stigma associated with it, that somehow the person is going to think you really have schizophrenia. In society, we think that there's only one mental disorder, schizophrenia, psychosis, nothing else. It is as if to think that the only disease you could have is cancer. Well, it's simply not true. So you should be able to approach your employer, and if you can't, approach a family member, a friend. The best thing we can do if we're feeling sad is make a social connection. That's the best protection against taking your life, is if you have friends, generally you don't do it.
All right. And Brian, I wanted to talk to you about the social media aspect of this when it comes to kids, teenagers, maybe even people that are millennials taking their lives, seeing kind of this generalization of looking up to celebrities or people on social media who are taking their own lives. How do you think social media plays a role in all of this?
I mean, social media plays a fact in everybody's life. I mean, and I hate to say it this way, but a lot of people live in social media looking for identity. They look at other people's lives and go, oh, that's what I want to be, or that's what I want to do. And so, you know, me being a chef also, you know, Anthony Bourdain was someone I admired. I was wanted to be Anthony Bourdain. I just wanted to live his life, and it's one of these things when you look up to someone who's setting such a high bar in life, you don't really understand what's going inside. I often tell it like it's a beautiful tattoo. On the outside, you see this beautiful piece of work, but on the inside is so dark and ominous, and you don't see that inside on social media. You see everybody's life from a different perspective, and then when you start to try to relate to that person, it's almost unrelatable because you haven't been in their shoes.
Certainly. And Terry, you've served on numerous behavioral health boards. What is being done perhaps from a government level, from a state level, federal level to address this issue? We talk a lot about fixing the issue, but what's being done?
Unfortunately not. They've put a lot more resources into substance use and the opioid epidemic, but mental health has really suffered with funding restrictions. And you probably can look and see many outpatient clinics that are community-based have actually decreased in size and services. So people that have commercial insurance are much better off, but people on Medicaid have a lot more challenges, and that's an area that really needs to be addressed. So we're looking at ways that, I know at Sarasota Memorial, how we can bridge all this and really best serve the community. And that's what I'm going to be tasked with for the next several months, is really working with our community partners and our people that utilize our services and the staff to figure out what we need to do to help better serve the community here.
Okay, and Dr. Renier, how have things changed in regard to suicide awareness in the past 30 years? How have things changed from what you've seen?
I wish I could tell you that things were better. They're not. In fact, things have gone backwards. We have spent the last 30 years decimating our mental health system in this country, and in Florida, it's a ragtag, poorly organized system. We need to fund it more. We need to do public education spots. We need to talk to people honestly about mental disorder so that everybody doesn't think the only mental disorder you have is to be psychotic. In fact, there's over 300 types of mental disorders you can have, but they all have something in common. They all have depression in common, and then depression leads to suicide. So we need to educate people about it and how to take care of themselves, how to avoid depression, how to avoid being isolated. And we virtually have no public education on mental disorder, and the services we have decreased so much, as we just heard, that in fact they are almost non-existent. People have a hard time finding resources.
Well, Brian, I know June is PTSD Awareness Month. Can you talk about how PTSD can lead to suicide and a little bit about your own personal experience for us?
Yeah, I mean, PTSD, it's just a traumatic event in your life that, being a veteran, we associate PTSD with losing a friend in combat or losing a buddy overseas, but PTSD can come from talking to your brother one minute and then next minute he's taking his life, which is something that happened personally to me. A lot of the issues we have as veterans is we don't trust in the system that's failing. We don't trust in the opportunities to reach out and stay fulfilled in those organizations. As a small community advisor, we have Operation Rubik's through SRQ Vets, which is providing platforms where veterans can go out and find battle buddies to put themselves back into a group of people they trust and they can go forward with and know that they're going to be okay. And I think that's a real solution from a veteran standpoint, is that we have to trust the leadership that's in place, that they're there for our best interests and want to see us better. And that's something, as a veteran, that's what kind of saved my life, was finding a place where there was somebody who I could look up to that wanted to see my life continue. And that's where you find that leadership, that mentorship, and those small-based organizations like SRQ Vets and Operation Rubik's to make that impact.
Okay, and now we are a little short on time, so I wanted to get some final thoughts from all three of you. How do we as a country move forward and do better with helping those who are suffering with suicidal thoughts? Dr. Renier?
Well, this is something I think about all the time, and I belong to a council in Tallahassee that sort of advised the government, our government, about what to do on a number of topics, and one of them is mental health. In fact, I'm organizing a statewide research project to look at what do we need to do. But in my opinion, we need to fund our already resources more than we have so far. We have to provide hospitals with, and stop making mental health a stepchild, move it up to central place. We need public education. We need the Department of Mental Health and the Department of Substance Abuse to work together collaboratively, because frequently it is mental disorder that leads to substance abuse, and sometimes not the reverse. Something that we overlook. The other thing is to really begin to talk to kids about how to be healthy. Exercise, eat properly, don't drink too much. Those are simple things that keep a mind healthy. Stay out of trouble, keep focused. Those are things that help. Have friends, spend less time on social media. more time making connections, social connections. If we do these, we do better.
Okay, and for you, Terry?
Jacqueline, thank you tonight for having us on and talking about this difficult subject. It's, you know, this is a great step, is education, community education, and I would say really promoting, as we had talked about, healthcare parity, so that you treat a mental illness the same as you would a physical ailment, and we really need to stop balancing that. And I would also say that our therapies are highly effective. Suicide is the most preventable death if individuals can get connected to treatment. So we have very effective treatments.
All right, and for you, Brian?
I would just say, you know, it's, you know, in the military, it's so looked harshly upon to say you have combat fatigue or you have PTSD, and, you know, to advise, you know, the veterans and the loved ones of the community that it's no longer that status quo. You can reach out, you can find the support you need, and find a battle buddy, find somebody who you trust, and then say, I have an issue. And be okay and seek the best help. You know, I practice mindfulness on a daily basis, watching motivational videos, having set goals, having an organized mindset, start scheduling my life in a progressive manner. And that's where a lot of the shortcomings come, is people are not seeing their lives in the future. They're looking at the here and now, and it's not where they want it to be.
Well, thank you all so much. Now, before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on the congressional race taking place in the 16th District. Republican Vern Buchanan is the front runner and favored to win again, but will the recent blue wave hitting the Suncoast hurt him come this November? Buchanan will face the winner of the Democratic primary between Dave Shapiro and Jan Schneider. We went to Facebook to hear what you want to see, who you want to see representing the district. Diane says, at this point, I don't really care who is running. I'm so disgusted with the GOP, I'm now a registered NPA and wouldn't vote Republican if they were the only ones running. Jason says Vern will win, but David Shapiro will give him a run for his money. Jan Schneider's political expiration date was about 14 years ago, so not her. And Elizabeth keeps it short and sweet to the point, saying Shapiro. Jacqueline says Jan, at least she stands for something. And finally, Lily, reminding citizens to register and vote. Now, if you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, head over to our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And thank you to Brian Jacobs, a Marine Corps veteran and founder of Vets to Success, Terry Cassidy, the Executive Director for Bayside Center for Behavioral Health, and Dr. Eddie Renier, a clinical psychologist in Sarasota, for joining us tonight. Thank you very much for all of you guys coming out. When we return, we'll be joined by ABC7's consumer watchdog Jerry Zivick to talk to us about how we can protect ourselves and our devices from cryptojacking. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is an important message for anyone with Medicare. You may be eligible for an all-in-one Medicare plan that combines hospital, medical, and prescription drug coverage together with extra benefits that may include dental, vision, hearing aids, and much more. Some of these plans have a $0 monthly premium regardless of your income. That's right. For one low plan premium, or in some cases a $0 premium, you may be able to get coverage for your hospital visits, doctor appointments, prescription drugs, routine dental care, eyeglasses and contact lenses, hearing aids, and possibly more. Today may be the first time you've heard about this type of Medicare plan. The advisors at the Medicare.com helpline are licensed insurance agents who will explain more when you call. Call now to see if you qualify. Call the number on your screen now. Call now to see if you qualify for these benefits. You worked hard for your Medicare. Now is the time for your Medicare to work hard for you. Not affiliated with or acting on behalf of any government agency or program.
If you're looking for the perfect trip that allows you to spend quality time with the family, then discover the great outdoors on an Alabama Black Belt adventure. Create unforgettable memories while hunting, canoeing, camping, and more. Or challenge yourself on Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, now celebrating 25 years. And while you're here, enjoy a Deep South dining experience. Book your adventure in one of our members' lodges or stay at the Renaissance Montgomery Hotel and Spa. Start planning an Alabama Black Belt adventure today.
Are you a food lover, restaurant goer, or home cook? Then check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, and helpful step-by-step videos. And you'll love the restaurant guide with direct links to your favorite Suncoast eateries. Whether you're cooking in or dining out, whet your appetite with tasty tips from Chef Judy at mysuncoast.com/dining. Hurricane season is here, and so is the official Suncoast Hurricane Guide from ABC7. This essential resource arms you with vital information you need to protect your family and property when severe weather threatens the Suncoast, including how to create your readiness plan and survival kit, shelter locations, what to do with pets, and important phone numbers. Visit mysuncoast.com and download the official Suncoast Hurricane Guide from ABC7. Brought to you by Batteries Plus, the Florida Lottery, and Sarasota Glass and Mirror.
We answered the call of duty and left our homes to serve in far-off lands. Now, we answer another call, this time at home, in our own communities, to respond in times of chaos, to use our strength, our skills, and our experiences to bring hope amid devastation and destruction. Together, as a team of brothers and sisters, we're continuing our mission to make this country a little stronger and a little better each day. We are Team Rubicon.
Welcome back. We keep so much of our own personal information online, our social security numbers, credit card information, and of course much more. And hackers can get into our phones or computers and steal that information and our finances. So how do we and how can we protect our devices from cryptojacking? Here to tell us how is ABC7's consumer watchdog, Jerry Zivick. And Jerry, I hadn't really even heard of this word before you mentioned it to us, cryptojacking.
It's an interesting word. You always have to check it a couple times with spell check whenever you write it out. Cryptojacking is actually a situation where hackers are taking over our processors in our computer without us even knowing it. We could go to a website and not even be aware that our computer's been infected. There's going to be no pop-up that says warning, warning, warning. And what they're actually doing is they're mining cryptocurrency. Everybody knows about Bitcoin, but they're really mining other cryptocurrencies. There's something called Zcash, there's something called Dinero, and what they're doing is they're having your computer work to mine that currency for their benefit. It's similar to ransomware. However, it's more beneficial than ransomware, because ransomware, 3 out of every 100 hits, somebody will pay the fees. On cryptojacking, your computer is working 24/7 to mine cash for these hackers.
So why is it on the rise?
It's on the rise because there's very little chance that these people will get caught. There's really no data that's being stolen from your computer with cryptojacking, or at least that's what they're saying. I actually think that there is more at stake, that once they're in getting that, they're probably looking for something else. So there's very little chance for them to get caught. They can make a lot of money. This is rising at the rate of about 31% a month, according to some sources. You can make as much as $300,000 a month with this cryptojacking, so it's it's very lucrative.
Okay, and then this is kind of scary. Cryptojacking kits are relatively easy to get your hands on, and that's concerning for anyone, really.
You can go to the dark web. You don't have to be a technical expert to do this, and for $30, you can get a cryptojacking kit for yourself, and you're on your way.
Wow. So what can our viewers do to protect themselves?
I think what our viewers have to do, we've talked about this endlessly. You always have to make sure your apps are up to date. You should always get apps that will protect you. However, when you get these apps, you need to make sure that these are from verified sources. You also have to check the permissions that the app is giving, that the app is requesting from you. So these are all things that you have to do. And you also have to watch your device. If your device is all of a sudden starting to process data at a much slower rate, then you're in a situation where something is wrong. And also, people are so busy multitasking in today's world, and one mistyped letter can lead you to all kinds of bad things. So you should, whenever you're typing in a website or looking for something, stop what else you're doing. Don't be texting, don't be talking to the kids, don't be talking to your spouse, and just focus on what you're doing. There's less chance for a problem to occur.
All right, some good information there. Thank you so much, Jerry. Well, Jerry joins us every other Tuesday to discuss consumer issues like protecting your devices from cryptojacking. When we return, the Trump administration is enforcing what it calls zero tolerance when it comes to immigrants crossing into the U.S. border. But right now, let's get a final check on our first alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Tower cam showing some showers around earlier. This is 627. This is downtown Sarasota, looking out over Sarasota Bay, heading toward Longboat Key off there in the distance. So some showers brought some moderate to heavy rainfall at times, but you'll notice as we work through time here, we get to the current time, there's another little shower. They're all gone. And the rain is over, and it looks like it'll stay that way too. Should make for a nice sunset tonight. So send those photos in to pics@mysuncoast.com. We had some big rain near St. Petersburg earlier. That storm has since moved on, and then the showers started developing. We had a few isolated showers popping up here and there in North Sarasota, right there near Palm Air, University Park, and then it moved across the bay. That's the one we showed you there. It produced a few lightning strikes, and now all that lightning is gone too, as the storm is really weakened now. Just a light rain shower about 10 miles offshore of Longboat Key. The cloud cover not all that impressive right now, and that's a result of high pressure, which is really suppressing a lot of our normal afternoon and evening thunderstorms that we would expect to see this time of year. That dry air will stay in place again on Wednesday and Thursday. There will still be a few storms around. They'll be isolated at best. 81 now. The rain has since moved on from the airport, and the winds are out of the northwest at 5. The pressure 29.95 inches, and the high today was 92 degrees. That's above average. 89 is our normal. The temperatures have cooled in the low to mid 80s here in some places. Palm Air now back up to 88 degrees after a cool down because of the rain. Kensington Park also starting to warm back up, so temperatures, although cool for a little while, are starting to bounce back up. Their Plantation now at 86 degrees. Nationally, the storm track has really shifted up to the north now. There's some severe weather, even tornadoes in northwest Kansas, and severe thunderstorm watches and warnings extend all the way into Colorado tonight, and some rainfall clouds over Indiana, Illinois, and into Ohio. Temperature for high tomorrow, 90 degrees in St. Louis. It'll be 89 in Memphis. That's the expected high in Washington. 1 degree cooler, a bit cooler in Toronto, Detroit, and Chicago. That, again, dividing line between the cold air and the warm air hanging right across central Ohio, where high in Cleveland tomorrow will be 72 degrees. Well, for boaters, winds out of the northeast turn to the west. Not much wind for your sail tomorrow. Smooth conditions on the bays and inland waters. The water temperatures really warmed up to 87 degrees, and we're expecting a high at the beaches tomorrow of 88 degrees. The extended forecast then calling for a slight chance for showers over the next 7 days. And as far as summer goes, well, we are looking for that to roll in at 6:07 tomorrow. That's when the northern hemisphere is pointed more, or at least angled, because again, because of the sun there, the direct rays are more so now over the northern half of the world, and you can see that happens again. The longest day will be 13 hours and 52 minutes. That's the length of daylight in the northern hemisphere for us here. And again, that happens on Thursday morning at 6:07, but summer weather continues all the way through the weekend with just a slight chance for a few showers and storms on Saturday and Sunday. Jack will be back right after this. Stick around.
Thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, what was once impossible is happening today for thousands of patients with blood cancer.
I live.
I live. I live. I live. I live. She lives.
Because of the research done by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in the battle against blood cancer.
If you had a chance to support the research that is saving lives, what would you do?
Ever since I can remember, I've been intrigued by industrial design and the optimization.
Wait, that's passion? Ever since I can remember, my passion has been industrial design. We need 3D printers for Miss Adams' engineering program so that we are ready to solve 21st century challenges.
Impressive. Think It Up is a new initiative to support student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classroom today? Think It Up.
My life motto is keep moving. And as hard as it was when my husband passed away, I knew I had to keep doing what I love. Oops, coming. But I needed help with my insurance, and that's what the NAIC provides. They have resources to help you and your family make the best decision, and they'll help you to keep moving forward, just like me.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. I survived my cancer, but you can stop cancer before it starts. Talk to your doctor and go to thinkaboutthelink.org to learn more.
Hunger is a growing problem in our area, and a huge number of Suncoast residents are suffering in silence.
It could be your coworker,
Your child's classmate.
or your friend fighting to secure their next meal. But you can help.
ABC7 is partnering with local organizations to help feed the Suncoast.
Go to mysuncoast.com/hunger to join the fight. Help us.
Help the hungry.
We are problem solvers striving for answers. Relevancy on every platform. We are driven to create content that's compelling, engaging, where it matters. We are neighbors that care about solutions, believers in making a difference, leaders, innovating in an exciting era of multimedia, reaching to always be the gold standard in our evolving landscape. We are Raycom Media. Find your opportunity today.
Checking in on primetime headlines, President Trump justifying his recent enforcement of separating immigrant families who cross over into the United States border illegally. ABC's Arlette Saenz has more from the White House.
President Trump insists it's Congress that needs to change laws to stop the separation of families at the border, but there is no law that mandates families be separated. So how did we get here? The Trump administration is now enforcing what it calls zero tolerance, meaning any immigrants who cross the border illegally will be criminally prosecuted, no exceptions. Since children can't be incarcerated, they're separated from their parents and taken into government custody. Here's what's different. The Obama administration also separated kids on occasion, but used prosecutorial discretion to determine whether undocumented immigrants should be charged first or go through proceedings to apply for asylum. Many undocumented families were allowed to remain together and released pending the resolution of their cases. The Trump administration says that's one of the loopholes and that many of those families never returned for their court hearings.
We got to stop separation of the families. But politically correct or not, we have a country that needs security, that needs safety, that has to be protected.
The administration says if immigrant families want to stay together and seek asylum, they should come through a legal port of entry. A bipartisan group of more than 75 former U.S. attorneys wrote a letter to Attorney General Jeff Sessions urging him to end the policy. They argue it is a, quote, radical departure from previous Justice Department policy. Arlette Saenz, ABC News, the White House.
Donald Trump Jr. has pulled out of a planned New York fundraiser for George P. Bush due to the Bush family's criticism of President Trump. Bush's father is former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, who ran against Trump in the 2016 presidential primary. The elder Bush took to Twitter yesterday criticizing Trump's policy of separating immigrant families at the U.S.-Mexico border, calling the practice, quote, heartless. A source says Trump Jr. told the younger Bush recently that he would not be able to support him publicly if his father continued to criticize the president. Well, that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Jacqueline Matter. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.